And we will share the screen. Thank you for your patience as I struggled with opening the agenda for 172 times. So my apologies for that.
And it always opens all your documents whenever you do that.
Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, my apologies for being a little cuckoo bean here.
Yeah,
But
we
I'm
really
getting there.
appreciate you bringing up all the documents. I know it's a lot to organize,
It's
Beth.
typically much
So
faster. So thank you for your patience. Martha, you do have a quorum, so I'll pass it off to you.
awesome. Welcome everyone to this Gordon Burnell Governance Council regular meeting on July 16th, 2026. And we're going to do a quick call to order. So do I have a motion to call this regular meeting to order?
I motion to call the regular meeting to order.
Thank you, Ben. And do I have a second?
I'll second. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I heard Deb. Thank you, Deb. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Our meeting has been called to order, and we'll do a quick roll call. My name is Martha Hughes, and I am the Governance Council President. And I'll pass it off to Beth and those in the room.
Thank you, Martha. Beth Dorado, Director at Gordon Burnell Charter School.
I'm Deb DeTroy, member of the board.
Tina Martinez, member of the board.
Excellent.
Sen
Cynthia,
Sparks, board member.
Cynthia Arndell, board member.
Chris Cadon, principal at GBCS.
Jody Burchett, board member.
Erica Rivas, minutes recorder.
Sammy Marquez, business manager.
Awesome. Thank you all for attending today. We're going to move next to the approval of the agenda.
So if I could jump in, and I hate to
sorry, go
interrupt,
ahead.
I apologize, but some
No
of you
worries.
might have noticed the agenda that I emailed out to you all. Erica caught an error in it, and what was posted to the website was corrected in time. But I just corrected it in real time here, and just for the acknowledgement of the recording, and for everyone else who may have seen me do that. What was emailed to you said approval of the minutes April and May. That was a carryover from our previous agenda. What was posted to the website, that was removed, and just in real time, I removed it on this copy as well, because I downloaded this copy from the email and not from the website. So just wanting to acknowledge for transparency's sake that I just edited the agenda, but the one that was posted to the website is correct. And what is in front of you now reflects that as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
We don't usually have that. It's just that because we did two last month, it was kind of outside of the norm. So I just wanted to acknowledge that for transparency's sake, and I apologize for interrupting, Martha.
Oh, no worries. I'm glad that you guys caught that change and updated it for the website prior to the meeting. All right. So do I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I have a question.
Sure.
We talked about last month adding to this month's minutes discussion about us attending the July 20th first day of classes just to say hello and meet the staff. And I don't see it on there.
Yeah, we had actually just discussed with Beth during the finance meeting what would be a good time to do that. So we can touch base on that during board priorities. Because actually it was part of our strategic plan to have more visibility and connection with staff and students So I was kind of thinking, oh, we'll just wrap it up into our board priorities, but it's not the type of event that we necessarily have to have a vote on. But if we do, it's good to know, like if we do have a quorum, we'll need to post ahead of time, which we would have enough time now. So we'll make sure to figure out how many people are able to attend. We can have some people, if they want to come in person, there's kind of like a coffee hour from 8 to 8:30 that they're welcome to come and talk to staff. Or we're thinking 10 for a quick, just like online, hello, these are board members, and this is how you can reach out to us. This is when we have our meetings. Again, not required necessarily, but open to all board members who have availability and want to participate.
Thank you, Martha. I wondered where it was going to come up. I thought board priorities might work.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. All right. So any other questions or comments before approving the agenda? All right. So do I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Jody.
I
And do I have a
second.
second? Thank you, Ben. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. We have approved today's agenda. And now we're going to go to the approval of minutes. So these are the minutes from our June meeting. Did we have any questions or comments, corrections for June meeting minutes? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our June Governance Council meeting?
I motion to approve the minutes from our June governance meeting.
Thank you, Cynthia. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jody. And all in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have approved the minutes from the June meeting. And it doesn't appear that we have any guests, and we're going to wait for our kind of usual teacher introductions once the school year starts up again. So we'll get back into that soon. I'm looking forward to that. Are there any past business discussion items? We didn't have any listed. Deb kind of brought up one of the things we mentioned wanting to do as a board, so we'll continue talking about that and board priorities. Anything else? All right, so I'm going to pass it over to Sammy to talk about the finance packet.
Let me share my screen. Make sure that it works because I was having, I guess it still worked earlier. It's telling me I'm sharing a different screen. So that's why you can see the packet, right?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So we do have all of these bars, but they are not up for approval. They were approved using the blanket bar that you guys approved a few months ago. But we do always show you guys the bars that were submitted using that blanket bar approval for transparency. So I'll just go through them real quick. Our first one, this $2,500, this was directly from an REC grant that we got. They offered special ed stipends to certain teachers that met certain requirements. So we did have one teacher that met all of those requirements. So he did receive the stipend. So it's basically just the money came in, the money went out, but we do have to budget for it. And so that's what you'll see here. The next two are transfer bars for our innovation zone. This is to make sure that our budget aligned to our actual expenses and to the application. Our next one, a decrease bar for Idea B. This one was a decrease that came from APS. So our Idea B flows through APS. And so they sent us a letter that said, hey, we have to decrease your award by this amount. And so that's what that bar was for. The next two bars, both are for our different food service awards. So the general food service and then the universal free lunch. every year we estimate our budget for food service. It's based on what we've actually received in revenue. And so come the end of the year, we have to realign to our actual revenue received. And we don't want to have our budget be too high because we could potentially overexpend without getting the revenue back. And so that's why we do these decrease bars so that we're not projecting that we're going to have more money than we actually have so that we don't overspend that money. So you'll see there was a slight decrease for regular food service, about almost a $3,000 decrease for the universal free lunch. And then we did have an initial budget bar for the non-instructional support fund. That is our activity fund. So we have been talking about starting activity funds for a while. And this is the start of our activity funds. This was basically for teacher appreciation, retirement, staff leaving gifts that we're not allowed to pay for out of operating funds because it does go against the anti-donation clause. And so we need activity funds for that. And so Beth and Erica donated to get that fund started. And so this money is basically all from donations or, fundraising. That's what this fund is specifically for. And so that one was 201. And then finally, we just had a transfer bar for our CSI MRI fund to make sure that we were within budget at the function level. Any questions on any of those?
And just to reiterate, Sammy, these are not you don't have any bars that need to be approved at this meeting. These are all of the bars that you applied under the blanket bar that the board approved in May. Because coming to the end of the fiscal year, it's important that you have that flexibility. So these are things that happened in June, correct? Gotcha.
Any questions on those? We do have all of the bars listed, and you will see they do say PED approved because they were already approved using that blanket bar. Alrighty, moving on to our expenditures, projected budget balance used by fund. This is really what we want to see. Pretty much all of our reimbursable funds were spent to 100%. You'll see one was just slightly over just because of encumbrances. It was corrected. But everything else you'll see is at that 100%. Anything that's slightly under, some of them, this one, CSI was at 99%. There was like a super small amount that we weren't able to spend by the end of the year with our contractors. And so that's why it's at 99%. But pretty much everything else is really close. Title II is a hard one too for us to spend down. But all of these over here, you'll see that are like lower percentages, those carry over, so we don't need to spend them down. Of course, our operating fund, you don't want to be at 100% of your operating fund. Things like that, they all carry forward. Any questions on these? Awesome. Looking at our yearly expenditure comparison by month, all funds. So for June, you can see that our expenditures were a lot higher. There's a few reasons for that. One, we have to log all of our summer payroll. So the payrolls that actually pay out in July hit our transactions, the transaction date in 6/30. So it hits our general ledger as of 6/30 because we have to submit for a request for reimbursements. And basically all of that money is considered FY26 still, even though it's paid out in FY27. So those all hit in June. And then we also encumbered and spent $200,000 of our elevator and landscaping project. And so that's a big capital project. So our expenses went up significantly.
And if you're in the neighborhood, you can see the construction. They have broken ground. Our amphitheater, outdoor amphitheater, the concrete there is being poured and other things are happening. So it's kind of exciting.
Yay.
But I have a question back to the bars. Am I reading this right? In general, we spent less than we did. Other than June?
For the bars?
Yeah. The
For-
expenditures, it's comparing to 2024-25, right?
The graphs, yeah, this one. Right.
I'm just,
Mhm.
I'm sorry,
So
I'm just trying to understand that.
The yellow,
Yes.
the drop in May.
So
That's-
this is the monthly change. The yellow bar is
Uh-huh.
So if it's kind of below the ledger, that means
Right.
there was a drop from, this year from last year. And so
That's
you're
what, yeah,
comparing month by month to that month last year.
right. That's what
Mhm.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I was reading it correctly. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
for sure. Yeah, and so that's why June's yellow bar is so much higher, just because we spent more this June as compared to last year in June.
Right. Got it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Sammy has frozen on the screen, but she's called and is on my cell phone on speakerphone. Sammy, can you hear me and us?
Yes, I apologize. My power just went out.
Oh, okay. I can share the finance report, and if people in Zoom can hear you, Martha, can you hear Sammy from my phone when she speaks? We have good equipment here. to pick
Yeah, yeah, we
A
could
motion
hear
to approve whatever Sammy's thinking.
Oh,
her.
that's funny.
I think, Sammy, if you want to give me 30 seconds, I can pull up your finance packet and then you can continue on the phone if that makes sense.
Yes, that would be great because my computer is completely frozen right now.
Technology is wonderful when it works.
Okay, let me join on my phone, okay?
Okay, take your time.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So Sammy is going to rejoin us via Zoom on her phone instead of like she was there. And I've got her finance packet pulled back up. So in just a second, she should beep us and we can pick back up where we were. So yeah, we spent less money in May. And we spent a little less than we did in April and a little less in March than we did in February.
That's my point. So we actually, over the years, spent less this year compared to last year. Is that correct?
The orange bar is last year, was the
Right.
year prior. So 24, 25 are the orange bars. The blue bars were school year 25, 26, which we just closed out. As of next week, we will be in a new school year, 26, 27.
But in general, we spent less this year.
No, the blue bar is higher than the orange one.
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay, sorry.
Well, in some months, yeah. So for example,
I mean, in June, it's clearly higher, but it looks like it's okay.
Yes, but you're right. In November, December, January, we
Yeah.
spent considerably less because that's when we paid off this building last
Gotcha.
year.
I guess that's my question. I'm not
Mhm.
articulating very well. Sorry. That's exactly what my question was. Why the discrepancy? Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha, Cynthia. Thanks for being patient and persistent because we got on the same page there. So that's helpful.
Okay.
yeah, and it's good to mention, like Sammy was talking about some of those differences for this year. One of the reasons why we went way up is the elevator is underway now. So that was a big payment as well. And you can kind of see it then in the ledger. That'll be a payment to Rachel Matthews. And so actually, if we scroll down just a little bit, Beth, one of the important places for the board to always take a look at is that off to the left in that pie chart is the instruction and instructional support. Right now it's at 53%, which is a little bit low. Like we want to be looking more at like 60 to 65%. It's always a little bit more difficult with Gordon Burnell just because we have two campuses, which also means like dual sets of leadership, which can, count for salaries that kind of skews how much is spent in the classroom and for instructional support. However, we have been really doing good at keeping those numbers where they should be, because that's something the state is looking at and wants required. One of the reasons why it dropped back down this month is because we made, that big elevator payment. And so then that kind of throws all the percentages off, because the elevator is not considered something for in classroom. Yeah.
Except didn't the students help design some of this?
They did. We could argue that as well. It often comes up in our audits And in our site visits, why are these percentages a little bit lower? But as soon as we say, well, we need a big capital investment, or, well, remember, we have the multiple campuses, so we need a higher it's never a concern after that we provide the narrative. It's a red flag. And so it's a good thing to understand why the numbers are where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome
Yeah.
back, Sammy.
Sorry. I went to join on my phone and my Zoom app wasn't like synced to my phone. I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? But then it turned back
The
on.
power came back on. Yeah, yeah.
I know. I don't know if I froze this way on your guys' side, but I was frozen on my side looking up because I was looking at my lights. So I was like, what happened?
Well, welcome back, Sammy. We'll pass it back off to you.
Thank you. Do you want me to share?
If you have power. That way you can be
Okay.
in control. We'll go back. It's all good.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Were all the questions answered here? Sorry, we were like mid going over it, so I wanted to make sure here and here.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to interrupt for those kind of things, especially new board members, because it is always a process of learning and kind of getting familiar with, the graphs, what are expectations, how to follow it all. So we really appreciate those questions, Cindy.
Thank you.
Looking at our monthly cash balance, this is all funds, and then our operational liquidity. So we are still sitting at a 7.38, which is great. That's super
Yeah.
strong for schools. You'll see that it does go down a little bit just because of those June payrolls, as well as the encumbrance and the cost of the elevator and the landscaping project. But being at a 7.3 is still way more than, what's expected. And so we still have a very strong cash liquidity amount. Looking at our budget analysis, so again, this is similar to the graphs above or the charts above that have the percentages of all of our funds. You can see here all of those funds that are very spent at pretty much 100%, some that are a little bit lower. This is that one that's over 100% because of this encumbrance here. And so that I did remove that encumbrance, and so we are not over budget anymore. But everything else here looks good. Again, these ones carry over here, operational carries over, things like that. So those do not need to be 100% spent down. Any questions here? Looking at our checklisting report, didn't have too many things out of the ordinary. Payday, we had our final payment here. This was paid out of Innovation Zone for the student interns. We had that $200,000 payment for the elevator and landscaping project here. ACES, we had a large payment because we do pay, Vertex Education, JMP Academy, a few things from that are paid through ACES, and they were all paid out at the end of the month for June. I think those were the big things that we wanted to point out. Any questions on any of these?
I have a question. Acronyms for me are painful. What does ACE stand for again?
Association of Charter School Education Services.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
So if I could just add to that just a little bit, in New Mexico, there's quite a bit of regulation that provides guidance and expectations for the use of public monies. And there's thresholds. So like anything under $20,000, I, as the chief procurement officer for the organization, can make a decision about who I want to spend money on. So like if I need a plumber and it's only going to cost $3,000, then I can just pick a plumber and no one's going to ask me anything. Things that are between $20,000 and $60,000 do require that I have multiple bids, and that if I'm not going with the cheapest, that I have a justification and that I document why I'm going with somebody that's a little more expensive. And there's lots of reasons why that's acceptable, but it has to be documented, and I have to do the work to get a minimum of 3 bids. If I'm going to pay any one vendor more than $20,000. Anything at the $60,000 mark requires board approval. And that's why I bring you contracts and things that are above $60,000 because I can't make those determinations on my own. I need your approval as well. And that also puts us into the RFP mode. So if it's a contract for services, like some of our employees make over $60,000, then as long as you and I are in agreement, we're good. But if we're talking about if I need a plumber that's over, if I need to put in a whole new HVAC system and it's going to require me moving all of the pipes and it's going to cost $70,000, then just you and I saying that we approve it isn't enough. And just me getting 3 bids isn't enough. At the $60,000 threshold line, I have to put it out for RFP, a request for proposals. So there has to be a public announcement that I want to spend this money. I have to accept bids, and there's a whole process to choose the winner of the RFP. That is a lengthy and ridiculous process. And so the state has said that has allowed for these procurement agencies to do that work and then provide contracts to member organizations. So ACES is one that we work with quite often, and so is CES. We'll have these big payments to ACES. And essentially what that means is ACES put out the RFP for business managers. And they went through the whole process and they have a list of approved vendors. And then we contract with K-12 through ACES because ACES has done the due diligence to make sure that K-12 accounting, I'm sorry, you're Vertex Education now, Sammy. Vertex Education is competent and eligible and meets all the requirements and has proven that they deserve state funding above $60,000. So our business manager stuff goes through ACES, our tech stuff goes through ACES, our contracted services to support with state reporting, and many others just choose to go through ACES. It provides a little buffer of like this, it legitimizes the spending of public monies in those ways. And so if anything that's over $60,000, if it's not a contract for one person, if it's a vendor, I either have to go out through RFP or I have to use one of these approved procurement agencies. And ACES is our preferred option for that. But we also, like our Ed Connective bill is going to be well over $100,000. They're a national company, but they work through a procurement company in Texas that New Mexico accepts. Our nucleus and all of our stuff that we do out at MDC, our highly secure correctional platform is through TIPS, which is a nationally recognized procurement company. So it's a pretty common thing, but you'll see these huge, like $63,000 to ACES. Well, that's because we paid the business manager, we paid the tech company, we paid all of these different companies that we would have had to go out to RFP on, but we're using ACES as a way to legitimize that without having to do all of the trouble of an RFP.
That's really helpful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Beth. Any questions on anything here? Alrighty. Of course, we always have our detailed reports. If you guys want to look through them, these are just listing all of our account codes and all of their balances for all of our funds. This first one is all of the expense account codes. And then when we go down, this next one here has all of our revenue accounts. Then we have our balance sheet report, which we use to look at our cash on hand here. And then our statement of revenue, expenditures, change in fund balance, very similar, just looking at revenues and expenses. Then we have our bank reconciliation where we do zero out. We don't have anything that is stale dated on our outstanding checklist. And then down here, you can see that we tie to our bank balance as of June 30th. Any questions on anything here? No. Well, that is all that I have. And just a reminder, we don't have to approve the bars because they were already approved.
Thank you so much, Sammy, for walking us through the finance packet. And it was helpful to kind of have some reminders on aspects of it, especially as we enter a new school year soon. I also just wanted to add really quickly, since we're in the finance section, that we did have an audit conference, which is sort of like kicking off the audit season. All charter schools were required to attend with at least one person from the audit committee. And so I was able to attend that, and nothing really out of the ordinary. And just want to let the board know that typically with, the session being kind of early fall, we're allowed to share with the board like, oh, things are going well, or it's progressing, or we're at this stage. But we won't share, specific details of the audit until like much later in the year once, if there are any findings, those have been kind of like worked out, and then kind of things are approved to go public. So just so that folks know, that's going to be coming up pretty soon, where we're going to start having the auditors come in. All right, so let's go ahead then to our action item. Do I have a motion to approve the accounts and payroll vouchers?
I'll move that we approve our accounts and payroll vouchers.
Thank you, Deb.
And I'll
Do I have-
second.
Thank you, Ben. And do I have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all. We have approved our accounts and payroll vouchers. And so all of the bars were under the blanket bars. So we actually don't have any budget adjustment requests for this month. And so should I go ahead and formally table then, Beth, since it is on the action item? Okay. Do I have a motion to table the approval of bars until next month?
To table the bars until next month.
Thank you, Tina. Do I have a second? I saw Jody, so thank you, Jody. And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we have tabled the approval of the budget adjustment requests as they weren't needed until next month. All right, thank you so much, Sammy. We really appreciate all your team does. And we look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
There's Sammy.
All right, so we'll move along then to Beth's director report.
Awesome. So, let's see. Super excited for this school year, really super excited for this school year. I'm super excited about our new staff members. I feel like we are really positioned with a lot of supports that we haven't had in the past. And I'm super excited about the year. As Sammy mentioned, we put about a fourth of the money down towards our elevator and our open space project. It is happening. There is construction on campus, and that's wonderful. If you haven't had a chance to open the plans for the outdoor space, it is gorgeous, and I won't spend much time on it, but oh my gosh, it was an empty lot, and it's going to be this beautiful space. And so
cool.
This amphitheater is being poured right now, the stadium seats and the stage here. It's going to have a ton of trees, and there is not a greenhouse or a pollinator garden going in now, but all of the irrigation is being laid for that so that we can water easily when those things are in place. But the walkways and the trees and the tables and the shade and all of that stuff is going in, and I'm super excited. And it is really amazing to see how student ideas on literally lined school paper turned into this, because you can see them carry through. It's been an amazing project, and I'm super proud of it. So that's super cool. how do I stay focused? Here we go. There is a emergency contingency plan that we like to present at the beginning of every year. Knock on some wood, we will never have to use it. But if I need to step away in an unplanned fashion, then this document, which is also in the shared resources, I put it on the shared drive so you guys have access for it. Just names who does what in my absence, and so again, it's not something you have to vote on, but it is something that we come back to at the beginning of a year just to. And I have conversations like Chris. I was like, Chris, you're still down for this, right? Just so that people there is a plan in place in case the board needs to make sure that services are not disrupted. And essentially, it is Chris Cazone will be named as the interim, and then the board would have some time to either confirm that longer term or to come up with something else. And Sammy remains leading the financial systems. And then we also have a shared leadership and a shared accountability system. And so it also goes into detail about who on the leadership team will just continue with what they're currently doing, but to make sure that services don't get disrupted. This charter renewal, APS versus PEC, let's talk, right?
Yeah, that's compelling. Yeah.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
This is not the first time the board has talked about it. It's not the first time I've written about it. I wanted to share an example of what prompted me to go, we need to talk about it again. So, and I might just stop sharing for just a moment because it's easier sometimes. Well, got a lot of cameras off, but that's okay. Cameras off are okay. But just to kind of speak through kind of what happened. So, you may remember that a PED is doing a new accreditation system, and they've got a handful of things that they are tracking. And if you're not compliant in those things, then your accreditation is at risk. And accreditation is important for a lot of reasons, but it's important. It's not something that we're willing to let go of. And so one of the lines on the PED's new accreditation framework is that 95% of our students participate in accountability testing. And I shared with you at the end of last year that we were in the red in that area, and that I've been in contact with PED to understand how we get in the green. The statute, the mandate is that 95% of your 11th graders take the accountability tests, which are the SATs in reading and math, and the New Mexico Assessment of Science Readiness for Science. But at our school, 11th graders when? Because we don't matriculate students at the end of the semester or at the end of the school year. Students who come in as a 10th grader may graduate that year. Students who come in who are an 11th grader at the beginning of the year may be a senior by the time that testing window comes around. And so I reached out directly to accountability and assessment at PED, and I said, I need help because 95% of what list? Like I was doing 95% of the students who were enrolled during the testing window. We still would have been in the red. We're at 83 this year, which is really good for us, but it all the same, right? I'm engaging in the conversation. 95% of what? And so Lynn Vasquez, the director of the accountability department at PED, said, that's an excellent question, and I need to think about this. And then a month and a half later, lo and behold, there is an opportunity to attend some training and validate your lists. Whether that came directly from my questions or a combination of questions, I was certainly excited and grateful for it, because here's a chance for me to see who they think was supposed to test. And because I had no idea who they thought was supposed to test. That was part of my struggle. So I went to the training, and then the PED has a platform called Sage, where they put student information. I went into Sage. I looked at who they said I was supposed to test. That list was not the people I test. 75% of those students had been disenrolled by the time the testing window came. But there was an opportunity for me to say when they were disenrolled and to send that information back to PED. I did it. I felt really good about it.
Just a quick question. Where did PED get their list? Are they getting it from a 40-day count?
I think they're getting it from a 40-day count. That I can't verify that, but that would be my assumption. And by the 40-day count is in early October. By April, 75% of the students are gone for us. And so I felt really good that I could enter disenrollment dates, which was something that they allowed me to do, sent it back their way, went about my business. I get an email from APS that they had taken it down because they were validating our data. Because they're responsible for the whole district, including their charters. They had not reached out to me to validate that data. They had not contacted me. They did not know that all of the, like, I got angry and I wrote a fairly strongly worded email, and they've been very responsive and we're having conversation. But this was an example of APS's validation was to clear their red flags, not to ensure that their data was accurate enough that it serves us. And this directly affects our accreditation, not APS's. And so this was when I said, I'm going to call the PEC and see when is the deadline to decide whether we want to renew with APS or whether we want to renew from PEC. APS sees that as a support. Their accountability division is doing it for us. We should be grateful. I don't see it as a support. I see it as a barrier to accurate data and to our accreditation being in the green. So that was what prompted I'm bringing this conversation back up, because I got angry for the short story, but then I got my anger subsided and I was like, okay. So to take a larger step back for Ben and Cynthia, who are newer to this conversation, charter schools in New Mexico have two options for authorization. They can be authorized by their local district. We are a locally authorized charter, which means our charter our authorizer is Albuquerque Public Schools. We apply to be a charter with them. They approve our charter and they authorize us and oversee us for 5 years, at which point we renew. The other option is to not authorize with your local district, but to authorize directly with the Public Education Commission. That is a statewide organization. And in the Albuquerque metro area, I'm estimating around 50 to 55 charters, and approximately 30 of them are authorized through APS, and the other 20 in our metro area are authorized through the PEC. We have until October 1st to make this decision. The applications are similar. I am working on both of them because I'm not certain that APS is the best choice for us. It used to be a much easier decision for me. Well, APS provided us with school lunch program, but a couple of years ago, they decided they weren't going to do that anymore, and we had to be our own school food authority. So now we get our own funding straight from the National School Lunch Program. It used to be that APS provided McKinney-Vento services, but they've cut that pretty drastically. It used to be that APS provided, so this long list of benefits to be with the local authorizer is dwindling for me. And I have concerns that there's another layer of bureaucracy that is not helpful at all. It can actually be harmful. If we were a PEC charter, we wouldn't be called to justify ourselves in front of the APS board every 3 months like they currently are. We wouldn't have to, all of our federal funds would not flow through APS. So I said to Sammy, I was mad the day that they pulled my participation. And I said to Sammy, I had a meeting with Sammy, didn't schedule a special meeting, but and I said, Sammy, if I were to ask you right now, your honest opinion, do we stay with APS or go to PEC? What would you say? And she said, the PEC is more work for her, because APS does handle all of our federal flow-through money. So we would have to do those applications and those types of things. She said, but I have PEC schools and that's what you pay me for. So do you know what I mean? She said it might be more work for me as well, those applications and whatnot. But I do a lot of grant writing and monitoring and tracking as it is. That's not a new world for me. She thinks our revenue would go up. She thinks we will get, she thinks schools that have switched get a considerable amount of money in the increase in their Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV funds. She thinks PE schools get a noticeable increase in their IDEA B, which is their special education funding. And so she said, if it was her, and she can speak for herself. You're welcome to speak with her as this conversation continues. We can ask her when she's on a meeting in a future months. She said she would support going to the PEC. There are two schools who have recently changed. Isaac went from Vos Collegiate, went from APS to PEC last year, and Ames went from PEC to APS last year. I've reached out to both of those directors to ask for their opinions. Not met with the Ames director yet, but it's summer, and so I'm not going to even reach out with a second request until we're a little later in. I did speak with Isaac, and he said there was absolutely no regrets leaving APS, that he felt incredibly supported and that things loosened up and were much more easier in handling the PEC. So that's where I'm at. I'm happy. I don't know the best way forward. I don't know what else would be helpful as I brought this up. This is the third or fourth time I brought it to the board. And I know one of my concerns in the past was how the PEC would feel about our adult ed program, because APS, aka the previous APS director, Joseph Escobedo, loved it and had no problem with the idea that our adult ed program is propped up by our high school program and relies heavily on the infrastructure of the high school. He didn't have a problem. I spoke with Bridget Russell, who is the PEC kind of representative at the state side, and I went, because I called her and I said, could we switch, and how does that work, and what does that look like, and here are some of my concerns. And I said, I'm concerned about this. How would the commission feel about an adult ed program, which I believe is appropriately braided funding, but others may disagree. And she said that she felt it was very equivalent, that there are many, many, many elementary schools right now who are propping up pre-K programs. And that is separate funding, but it relies completely on the facility, the infrastructure, the janitor, the administrator, the business manager of the elementary school to run the pre-K. She felt this was a prime example at the other end of a high school running an adult ed program. She did not feel like it would be a problem for the commission, but that was her opinion. That was my biggest concern, right, in leaving APS. But now we don't have the same people at APS. So I don't feel as comfortable about, that as it was. So I think those were all the things that I wanted to say. I don't know if any of you have thoughts or questions that I can note and get back to, if there's ways that we can move this discussion forward, but it is something we're going to have. We have 2 months to submit an application to one of them.
5 years, right?
And it's a 5-year commitment.
Go ahead.
I just wanted real quick, we had a request in the chat from Jody
sorry.
about sending the email that you sent, Beth. And Jody, were you referring to the email she sent to APS about our request for clarification on how they were going to measure data
Oh
around
yeah, I see it now.
Yes.
Happy to forward that.
engineers and testing?
Thank you.
Yep, happy to forward that, Jody. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Cindy, you also had
Is PEC, are they, or PES, or anyway, PEC, yeah. Okay, so are they much more flexible on the graduation rates and?
Nope, that's all PED. So PED, all these acronyms, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, sorry.
No, and don't be sorry. We speak in foreign languages here.
Okay.
PED is the Public Education Department.
Okay.
That is part of the executive branch of government that runs public schools. It is their accountability framework that has us all messed up with graduation. Doesn't matter who authorizes us, whether it's the PEC or APS. We are still bound to follow the direction and guidance of PED, the Public Education Department. The PEC is the Public Education Commission, and they authorize charter schools at the state level. I don't think that they're any more flexible. They have a performance framework. I would have to learn new systems for accountability, for reporting. There would be a new group of people that were doing site visits. I think it's different lots of people say that it's not necessarily trickier or harder, one or the other.
Uh-huh.
There used to be, for a long time, there was what people thought was more consistency and stability in the locally authorized version, but the PEC has spent the last 5 years really getting standardized. They have
Uh-huh.
some really transparent now ways that they do site visits. It's much harder for them to be wishy-washy as a long-term historically some people might have viewed them. But essentially they're different authorizers. They're different
Are they more timely, more efficient in providing feedback and frameworks and direction, or I mean, do they?
Oh no, I've never worked with them.
Okay, okay.
But those are excellent questions. Those are excellent questions. And the type of thing that I talked to Isaac about, I said, do you have any regrets? And he said, no, not at all.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
That he felt a great burden lifted off by
Okay.
leaving APS, that he felt
Uh-huh.
like APS had, you have another board essentially. I mean, the PEC is a
Yeah.
commission, but it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just a quick recap then, because it is a little confusing, some of this change and expectations. So overall, the public education department is still going to look at our graduation rates,
Absolutely.
which
Doesn't matter.
is still
Either way.
to our
Well,
disadvantage.
okay, to our disadvantage. Okay, so
Yeah.
all right. All right.
However, the new concern with APS authorizing our charter is that they have like a new system of accrediting schools.
Mm,
And under part of that, they were looking at kind of like our percentage of juniors who are participating in the SAT, which is now
got it.
required
Okay.
juniors. However, you know, because our juniors change throughout the year because we have more of the individualized learning plans, you know, they're not on that semester or yearly schedule. And so it's really hard for us to say, you know, who should test or who shouldn't. And so the data was quite off, you know, when APS had collected it as far as like how many juniors we had versus, you know, when they were accounting for juniors versus how many actually took the test. And so when Beth went to correct that data with them,
With the PED.
oh,
I
with
went
the
to correct it. I
PED.
went to correct it with the PED,
Okay.
and
Okay.
APS said, "Nope, you're one of our charters. We're going to correct it for you."
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
getting it
They
now.
corrected
I'm
it
getting the
wrong.
bigger picture now. Okay, I gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry. I just
APS, yeah,
I'm
APS.
sorry. I just
Don't
need
be
to.
sorry, Cynthia. Don't be sorry at all. Please continue to ask questions. To me, it feels like APS meddles more than the PEC ever will.
Uh-huh.
PEC will still have oversight. They will still have frameworks. They will
Mhm.
still have site reviews. They will still expect things of us. There will be a
Mhm.
whole new
Mhm.
system for doing that, but
Mhm.
they meddle a whole lot less than APS does.
They bully less.
At this point in time, they bully less. I wouldn't say that's been historical for 20, 30 years, but for the last 5 years or so, they
Mhm.
really do have standardized expectations and they are sticking to them.
Okay. Got it. That's helpful. Yeah.
It would also be my personal opinion that PEC would be potentially more amenable to unique charter schools, given that their purview encompasses more rural areas, and that's kind of what they do, as opposed to potentially APS.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. That sounds like a plus.
yeah, and part of you know, thinking about that potential switch too is just that recently with the APS board, as Beth mentioned, you know, there it seems like they have been more concerned about data and performance from charter schools, and kind of in a way that is limited to just looking at the data rather than stories and
Mhm.
wondering, well, why do
Mhm.
we have, you know,
Mhm.
these charter schools that need most rigorous intervention, you know,
Mhm.
us being
Mhm.
one of them, and you need to come to board meetings and answer questions every 3 months. And so rather than being open to our story of why our numbers are different and the different services we provide to a unique population, there has been more of that scrutiny in the last like even just year or so.
Right.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Thank
so
I had a
thank you
question
all.
in the room, Martha. I just wanted to
Sure.
acknowledge.
Yeah, sorry. Mhm.
You have that consortium of other MRI schools that you're working closely with. Are most of those schools locally authorized or most of them PEC authorized?
In that group, they're mostly APS authorized. And there are a few that authorized last year that have openly said they wish they had gone the other way. Because now they've got 5 years you're stuck for 5 years. And so some of the more recent changes have some of the other recently APS renewed going, man, we should have done something different.
Okay.
And that's been verbally shared with me.
And recently, I think that APS's cut to supports for all schools, but
Drastic.
specifically charter, has been night and day. Entire departments and support staff are no longer there. But if we stay with APS, we're still going to get their fingers in the pie, but without any support or benefit.
APS takes
Okay.
2% of our operational budget right off the top.
Yep.
PEC also gets 2% of our budget right off the top, but they offer it back to charters in a grant.
Mm-hmm.
They give it back to you. Say, I need money to support my traveling to this, and then they give it right. So they don't hold any of it. APS takes our 2% and keeps it. PEC takes 2%, and then we can apply to get it back.
That's a lot of money.
It is 2% of several $1 million adds up.
Every year.
Every year. And it used to be, well, you got all these supports. APS is in a tight spot. They've had declining enrollment for over a decade, incredible losses over COVID that they never recovered. And this is me editorializing, this is Beth's opinion, right? But what they need to do is close schools because public education is a per pupil formula. And with their long-term declining numbers, they cannot keep up the services that they did 10, 15, 20 years ago. What they should do is close schools. They've presented that option multiple times, and the neighborhood associations have gone crazy. And so what they've done instead of closing schools is just gut their central service supports. And that isn't sustainable, and that's a problem they're going to have to deal with. But for them to take our 2% and then not offer any supports because they can't afford it is where we're at right now. And what they think is support, in my mind, is often a harm. It's that, well, we're taking care of that data, but you didn't actually verify it. You just made sure that there weren't any blatant red flags. That's not helping my accreditation with the PED. It's not helping with my stakeholder data. It's hurting me tremendous. This one example, right? And there are others. There are other times recently that I've been learning. Because so every deadline to the PED, I have to get done 2 to 3 weeks earlier because I have to submit it to APS first so it can get to their board first so it can get to PED. That won't be an issue with the PEC. All the federal flow through money won't be an issue with PEC because we'll apply for it. We'll get it ourselves straight from the feds.
Yeah.
I've changed my mind, if you can't tell. But I'm also very open to further investigations, to bringing to you why or more. Do you know what I mean? I am leaning much harder towards the PEC than I ever have in this moment.
Well, if you don't get the support you need, Beth, I just believe that I think we should support you because you're the one that has to make this decision.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the one that has to live with the decision once made, truthfully. But if you're not getting any support, it costs more money. It doesn't make much sense to deal with somebody that's been bullying us for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of that's because they don't want us to be successful, but that's just me. And I think that, there's a lot of reasons to go straight with the PEC.
When does the decision have to be made?
2 months.
October 1st, the application is due to one or the other.
Okay.
And literally there are schools that a day before told the other one, I'm switching.
Uh-huh.
And I don't plan to do that. I would like to know sooner rather than later which direction we're going. But there is not there. We are in our legal right to decide on October 1st when we submit the application with the authorizer we want to move forward with.
Yeah, and I think previously we had, during these discussions, said that it's not necessarily something that the board needs to officially approve or vote on. Is that correct, Beth?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think it is a board decision. I know, I recognize that you will take my recommendation, and your intent to support me, but I think at some point the board needs to approve the application, and that would be when you vote to, you won't approve both. You're going to approve one.
Mhm.
And in order for me to submit it, my understanding is it has to be board approved. Do
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So that's when you make your vote,
Mhm.
when you approve
Mhm.
the application that I'm to submit.
Okay.
Okay.
And so up until that point, I don't think it needs to be an action item, but you
Okay.
will approve my application before I submit it.
Okay.
And that will probably be at the September meeting.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to have on the horizon, and that way, if folks have any follow-up questions or comments during like our August meeting, so maybe that could just be another item for your director's report for August, Beth, is just kind of a follow-up on charter school application reauthorization. And yeah, I agree with Deb as well that I feel fully in support of, your instincts on this, Beth, and weighing carefully those pluses and minuses either way.
Mhm.
I feel
Mhm.
similar in terms of like our previous conversations. It made sense to just stick with APS, but as some of this starts to change as we go along, and even if it does mean a little bit of extra work more on the business side of things, it's something you've discussed with Sammy and that you're both in agreement of. I'm very in support of you deciding to switch over to the PEC. In terms of other stakeholders, I mean, it doesn't seem like it would be something that would directly affect staff and students very much, but do you think there are any staff who would have a strong opinion either way?
Um, I mean, it's something that I think that they are interested in just because it's interesting. But I don't think that there are any staff members that have strong opinions. And a big part of my job is to not let any of those changes trickle down. This is all administrative. This is all administrative work.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't either matter APS or PEC. It doesn't change what's happening in the classroom, in my opinion, at all. It changes this oversight structure. And we will get oversight from one or the other.
Okay.
Beth, real quick, and apologies if you've already gone over this. How does the timeline work? So we go and apply. We
Mhm.
wait for approval. And
Mhm.
then at what point does our association officially switch over, assuming we're approved?
I'm going to take a stab at that then with a disclaimer that I could be wrong. But my understanding at this point is this school year that we're entering into, SY 26-27, is the last year under our current contract. So throughout the SY 26-27 school year, we will be authorized by APS and following their oversight. We are submitting an application in October for a new 5-year cycle that will start the following year, SY 27-28.
Got it. So there'd be a year continuing under APS.
That is my understanding. I could be wrong about that, though. It's an excellent question, and I'm going to get some additional clarification on it.
Yeah, that would make most sense to me too, because it would be strange to like, have a school year bridged between authorizers. But that would
But
be one
so
that
I
we
guess the
could
question
follow
would
up
be,
on.
So I guess the question would be, in the event of a switch, should the board and everybody approve, because we're just
Mhm.
talking here,
Yep.
would there be a ramification to an additional year? Um, should we pursue another route?
Yeah. No. It's different.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like obviously there have been other schools that have switched over to PEC, and it seems like it would be similar in terms of them also having like a year gap.
I'm really curious about that now because I'm not sure, to be honest.
Well, I
Because
didn't
I
know.
think,
I didn't know over the course of going through an audit.
yeah, yeah.
hmm
No, I'm going to certainly look into that, Ben, and bring back a more confident answer.
All good.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so Beth, kind of the plan now is that you're going to open up the application for PEC and take a look at that.
Yep.
Hopefully, there's lots of that can just be duplicated from the
Mhm.
APS app that you've already prepared, so that hopefully there's not too much extra work in preparing the second one. And then,
That's the plan.
yeah, and then you also have kind of a team that has helped you with that charter reapplication, right? That can
Yes.
continue to assist you. Okay. And then please let us know too if there's anything the board needs help with, because I know, part of our strategic planning that the board did was because that was something required for the APS charter. And so if there's anything different that we need to do for PEC, let us know so that we can get a committee on that. But we'll check back in August and then vote on whichever way. It seems like we're all leaning at that point in September. Any other questions or comments from board members?
I'm sorry. So APS does um, districts locally. I mean, they divide. Is there a division difference um, under APS, or am I confused? Is that
APS is a district, and they have, I don't know how many schools, traditional schools in their portfolio, but a large number. I think they may be one of the largest school districts in the nation, actually. Even large metro areas like Los Angeles are split up into smaller school districts within the city. And so APS is a massive district. It has a
okay?
large portfolio of elementary schools, hundreds of schools that they oversee. And they author any district in the state of New Mexico can authorize its own charters. And APS currently authorizes 32 charters, I think,
Okay.
us being one of them. The PEC authorizes statewide of the other 70 or so. I think there's 100 charters in the state.
Are there?
Not necessarily, because Santa Fe district has some of their own locally authorized. Las Cruces district has some of their own locally authorized. So the PEC has a good chunk of them, and then local districts all have some of their own.
Are there any advantages from that standpoint, or disadvantages, or is it just
I used to be able to list off a long list of advantages, but they are dwindling
okay?
and being removed for budgetary and administrative decision-making reasons.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay. So whether it's the PEC or the APS, there's both going to be there'll be a contract, a 5-year contract that they sign with us to authorize us as a school. There will be a performance framework and oversight guidance. It is similar, but it is similar between the two. They're different systems, different platforms. You learn a new thing, right? But they're not drastically different in terms of the bare bones structure. What's different is some of the other things that we've been talking about for the past
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. All right,
Thank
I'm gonna get us through contracts, because some of them I spoke about this a little bit earlier, right? They're above that $60,000 threshold, so if you've had a chance to look at them, that will be an action item. I do also talk a little bit about how when we have new policy, I'm working on a checklist and a template. We haven't really had new policy to date, since this, but that's on the horizon. Um, the employee handbook and the student handbook and the onboarding guide. The employee handbook and the student handbook require your approval. The onboarding guide I'm super proud of. So if you're like bored and you want to click around, I am super proud of this. Onboarding new staff. Staff either love us and they're willing to figure it out, or they're like, what are you doing? Because we are a complicated system with a lot of moving pieces. But I'm really proud of this onboarding guide. It has a ton of links inside of it. It does not need your approval. I just wanted to show it off because it took a lot of work. So I'm like, look at these things I did. SOPs are also coming along. I completely gutted our shared drive and started from fresh for staff. So when on Monday I can tell them I'm 100% confident that everything on the shared drive that they have access to is accurate, updated, and needs to be followed. Where our previous shared drive was like, I don't know, where'd that come from? That's not true anymore. And so I feel really proud about that too. I'm going to come back to employee handbooks and student handbooks and just talk before you vote on them. What are the differences between this year's and last year's? I need to pull up another document, but I have it handy. So I'll slide back to that quickly before you approve it, just so we can highlight what's different in these years. Monday morning memos. Professional development is happening. Martha, during her board priorities, are going to talk about an opportunity if you want to come in person Monday morning or join a quick Zoom Monday to meet staff. Those are both options, and she'll talk a little bit about that. And then there's not a whole lot new. I grayed out quite a bit of the data stuff because it's a new year, and so there was no updates.
Your restructuring application, that was very good.
That's the original.
You've got a new one.
I've got, they threw back on the rubric, there was a lot of 3s, and if it wasn't a 4, I had to redo it. But I didn't have to rewrite largely. It's super repetitive, which is frustrating as can be. But their revisions were not like, this is a bad idea, we don't want it. It's like, be more specific on the time. Be more specific. So I did submit revisions yesterday to APS 2 weeks earlier than they're due, so that APS can review them and put them in for their board, and then they'll send them by the 31st to PED for final review. So gotta just say really quick, adult ed 71% MSGs is amazing. Measurable skill gain. So in the adult ed world, it's all about MSGs, and the state goal was like 63, and we're at 71. We're way up in the top quartile there. So that, just super proud of our adult ed team, and kudos to Erica, who's on this call. She's humble, but she's an incredible piece of making sure that that data is clean and submitted. And while the students and the teachers did the work, it's Erica that got it reported correctly. And so just super proud of that whole team. Yeah, that's something to celebrate for sure. I'm gonna take Martha, if I hate to suggest this, but knowing the time, it's gonna take me a minute or two to pull up what's different in the employee handbooks. And before you vote on that, I just want to make sure that we're clear, because those are big documents.
Sure.
If maybe you wanted to do board priorities, and then I could talk about that before we vote on it. Does that feel like an okay next step?
No,
Appreciate
that
you.
sounds
Thank you.
wonderful. So we're gonna quickly look at our yearly goals and where we're at. We've kind of been visiting those throughout the year. We'll take a look at our strategic plan for the next 5 years, because that'll kind of influence, what we'll make for our new yearly goals. We don't necessarily have to get anything fully fashioned for our yearly goals. We can kind of work on them the next couple months. That's fine. But just kind of starting to get an idea. One of the areas in our strategic planning that we talked about was just having a stronger connection and presence for, staff and students at the school, and knowing that, we're there to serve them too, and that they can reach out to us or come to meetings. Um, so Tina had a great idea of having a little treat for staff when they come back on Monday. Do you want to share a little bit, Tina?
Yeah, I think I sent this to everybody. They're just empty pill containers, with a little label. We're filling them with candy. It says, that they're stress relief pills to take 1 or 2 pieces as needed for stress. And if symptoms persist, increase the dosage. Side effects include, happiness, smiling, and sugar highs. And so I just thought this would be something to have in their hand from the board, so they know we're here, we're around. It might be a nice excuse to introduce ourselves to staff. I always go back to my own experience, and I thought the only time I ever saw board at my school is when something was wrong, and they were there to check up on us, and it was an awful feeling to be like, oh my God, there's a board member in the building, and I don't want that on the other side. I don't want to be on the dark side. So if this is just a nice little treat, welcome back, way to introduce ourselves, I thought that might be a nice icebreaker.
Yeah, thank you so much for getting that together. And if folks would like to contribute a little bit of money to help Tina out with preparing that, reach out to her. I know that she has Cash App and Venmo. Tina, I sent a little over Venmo just so you know. And in addition, so again, our presence, that's one way. So Monday morning from 8 to 8:30 is when staff is having kind of like a coffee social time before stuff gets started for the day. So if folks are available and want to come and socialize and say hi, you're welcome to come to campus and do that between 8 and 8:30. Otherwise, if you're available at 10 online, we're gonna do a really quick just Zoom greeting. I will be there, but if anybody else would like to join, that's great. I'll make sure that I share all of the boards names, and just kind of let them know where they can contact us, when our meetings are, how they join, what kind of issues they can bring to us, just to start off the year in that way. So that kind of ties into our board priorities and some of the strategic plan that we had set up last fall. Any questions or comments for Monday's kickoff?
So we have a choice. We can go to either or. I mean, I would prefer to go in person at the 8 to 8:30.
Yeah, and also if you're not available that day, no pressure either. It's optional either way. Mhm.
Cynthia, we'd love to have you at 8 o'clock. You're more than welcome. I call it coffee and conversation. So we'll
Okay.
have some coffee. It allows people to kind of come at their own pace and settle in. And then at 8:30, I'll be like, okay, let's get going. If we get started
Got it.
now, we can get out on
Okay.
time. But that
Okay.
first half hour, my only request is if we have more than 3 members here at 8 o'clock, or if we have more than 3 members on that Zoom, then I have to post it to the website by tomorrow, because anytime we have a quorum, I have to say to the public, there will be a quorum, but no board business will be discussed. I'm just going to put that up no matter what, just to be safe. I'm going to put up
Okay.
that board members may be welcoming new staff on the first day of PD. No board business will be discussed, and that way, if we end up with a quorum, we're not in any problem. So that's something I'll just do. That way,
Okay,
no one
thank you,
has to
Beth.
decide right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because 4 would be a quorum.
Yep.
And so that's has our bases covered. So that way, folks, if they want to come at 8, great. If they want to hop on the meeting at 10. And would you mind sending out
Yep.
a
I'll
Zoom
send
for
out a
that as
Zoom.
well, Beth?
Yep, as well. Easy.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. All right. So uh I'll go ahead and share my screen quickly, or let's see. All right. So we've looked at this a couple times. Sorry if it's kind of small, but our first focus priority was really on academic outcomes and trying to understand the data a little bit more closely and have a better understanding and way of communicating that with amongst ourselves as well as like stakeholders. And so we really just planned it out into some different data dives throughout the year, tied into board meetings. And I think something that's come of that also is that Beth has those specific areas on the agenda that are just ongoing. And that's why she was mentioning things that were grayed out because they were older. But those are a placeholder that, if you're ever wondering about something, you can always go back to our director reports and find links to data there. So that's kind of an easy way. We did, talk about the needs assessment. So that's something that, we went over and, some of the panorama data we received in the documents in the director's report. So I can go ahead and highlight that as green. And in the June meeting, kind of looking at some of the performance framework, although some of, like the APS, because of the charter school director changes, they didn't do an on-site visit as well. So we're kind of waiting for some of that information. Beth, any more comments on like the performance framework or review?
They've assured me they'll have it to me in time for charter renewal because it's a requirement, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, so this one is one that, we weren't really able to go over together yet, but, something planned for the future. Okay, focus priority 2 on recruitment and retention. We welcomed Cindy and Ben earlier this year. And I also wanted to really applaud Jody has been reaching out to her contacts, looking for folks who might be able to serve on the board. We had a really great conversation with a friend of hers, and he's actually finishing up his dissertation. He's hoping to be finished in December. And he also serves on a nonprofit board. And so he kind of expressed that, at the moment he doesn't have capacity to serve on the board, but he was really interested in learning more about the school and looking for ways to collaborate. So he's going to meet with Beth sometime kind of in August, go visit the school. And so even those kind of little contact points are how we develop relationships with folks. And so even though he's not ready to serve on the board right now, if he's able to collaborate for a little bit in between, if he likes the school, likes what we're doing, that might mean, oh, it's a priority for him to serve on the board after his dissertation is done. So thank you, Jody, for getting that started. And then that's kind of an example for other board members. If you have folks in mind, even if they're not immediately ready to serve on the board now, there's still different ways that we can invite them in and kind of be able to create relationships, because once the relationship is a little bit deeper, then it's easier for people to say yes to a commitment such as serving on a board. So some of these things, you know, we have some documents from Kelly that provide kind of a baseline for a contingency plan or a succession plan for the board. Still not quite there. I sorry, it just kind of hadn't been my priority yet to fill that out with the evaluation team, but I'll reach out to Jody and Ben to find a time that we can kind of sit down and fill out those succession documents, but something that I don't think should take very long. We do need to revisit again the member overview, talk a little bit more about doing a specific orientation. Maybe we should look at Beth's orientation folder like document for some inspiration. So something that can really hold us all together as we're uh, bringing new people on. So this has always been kind of at the back burner, but it shows that, okay, we're not quite there yet, but some good things to incorporate into goals for this coming year. 5-year strategic plan, that was one last fall that was like, okay, we have to do this. So we got all of those things done. We have a 5-year strategic plan. Let's go ahead and look at that really quick. These were all notes from when we met during our training, and some of them I pulled out as, things to keep focusing on for next year. Really quickly. Okay, yeah. So this is the 5-year strategic plan. We've kind of tried to use things that were uniform so that they would make sense to us and could kind of pull from the strategic plan into our yearly goals. Academic outcomes still always going to be at the top of our list. Things we wanted easy wins to continue focusing on, our meetings having components of academic outcomes. So we do that monthly. Having those 6 yearly data deep dives, as well as places where you can go back and look at that data. One of the things that we can start working on is thinking about career outcomes. Like, how do we collect data on career exploration or career outcomes? Um, and, talking about those at like December and July meetings. So that could be something, okay, we're going to make a goal around, discussing the career outcomes during those meeting times, or making a point to ask Beth about them. Ensuring financial support, that's another big component of the board. And so just keeping an eye on our finances. Are we keeping a reasonable cash balance? Is there enough in that pie chart that's going towards the classroom? Those are all part of our board duties. So even though they're incorporated on a monthly basis, always kind of keeping that in mind of like, yep, that's our responsibility to make sure things are running smoothly. Financial outcomes, another one of our kind of purviews as board members. Again, trying to make it as streamlined as possible with, focusing a good portion of our meeting in that area, and that we have an active finance and audit committee. I mentioned audit season coming. I'll check back in. Sabah has been on the finance and audit committee in the past. I can kind of check in and see, does he still have capacity for that? If not, then we'll reach out to other board members. Or now, if there's a third person who wants to more regularly come to finance or audit committee, you're welcome, because now a quorum is 4. In the past, our quorum was 3, and so we're kind of limited to 2 members, but we're very welcome to having a third person on there now. Kind of anticipating and supporting adult ed, since that's a different category. Again, a lot of this can be done in the finance committee meetings or just our general meetings. And then our focus priority 3, organizational outcomes. We were really wanting to have staff input and following up on making sure that there are needs assessment and surveys going on, asking Beth to present the results to us on a yearly basis, making sure we hear about professional development opportunities for staff, keeping up with those memos, because they have a lot of that information. Supporting and evaluating the director, we have a separate committee for that, having those monthly check-ins with Beth. So a lot of this is just really things that we already do, but it's so foundational to the work of the school that we wanted to have it in the strategic plan. Here's kind of where I was talking about, okay, this is something newer that we can do better on, is that awareness of the general counsel, its role, and like us being accessible to staff and students. So one of the things that we could even write into a goal and kind of check off is, beginning of the school year introductions. Again, recruiting, having a solid orientation, that there's lots of room for growth there. I can add on to here the succession and contingency plans for the director. We can link Beth's contingency plan in there, and we put it actually on our calendar of things for the board meetings over the year of like, okay, we should review that each July. And so kind of just operationalizing some of those things that they don't get lost in the shuffle. And then the focus priority 4 is just maintaining facilities, which really it's finance, compliance of policies, reviewing a yearly safety plan. So there's still a few areas that we could add some details to, but trying to keep it as simple as possible that we're doing what we need to be doing. Thanks for your patience and kind of reviewing all of that. I just thought it was important to, get started with a new school year with that in mind. So, we have a busy meeting today. I don't want to spend a ton of time hashing this all out, but we've talked a lot already about what are some ideas for our next goals. So us having the goal, can we teach or explain to other people about the school's academic outcomes and data measures? Can we find specific data measures that we want to look at for each school year? So that might be one. Are there any ideas right now for a specific data measure that we might focus on for this particular school year?
Maybe asking the students what they think about like our goals for the year, like what
Okay.
their goals should be for the year.
So getting student input on our board goals.
Yes.
Yeah, and Beth, maybe that's something, since we have that good opportunity of meeting with staff, is there another comparable opportunity where we can also do like a quick introduction to students at some point?
We hold a community meeting every Tuesday right after
Okay.
lunch here at the Northworth campus. Um, an open invitation to come, to the campus for Tuesdays. If you're just on a random Tuesday, let us know. But there is a community meeting. It would be rare that you would not find a community meeting on a Tuesday morning. Out at MDC, I know that many times around graduation, people say, "Oh, I want to come not during graduation." So again, open invitation. If you want to spend a morning or an afternoon at our MDC campus, we will hold regular community meetings in the school pods there as well. I see your question in the chat about the time on Tuesday. I think I will confirm if you have interest on a particular Tuesday, but I think that's scheduled for 12:30 on Tuesdays at the end of their lunch period. And so it's typically just kind of in our student cafeteria downstairs. It's getting crowded. We don't fit in there even standing. And so we're hopeful to maybe do some of that next door in the amphitheater space, weather permitting, when it finishes. But 12:30 on Tuesdays is community meeting here at the Northworth campus for students.
Okay.
Sounds like
Great.
a
Thank you for that, Jody. I think that's a great idea because one, we wanted to, have a presence with students as well, and always welcome to get their input on, what we should be focusing on as a board as well. And so maybe what we could do is, have a draft of some goals, some ideas, things concrete that we can kind of show them, hey, this is what we worked on in the past. This is what we're thinking for the new school year. And then maybe sometime a little bit later in August, we could pick a date to come, present that at the community meeting. How does that sound for board members?
Good.
I have to
That sounds
apologize.
great.
I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty. My microphone and speaker here in the room is being weird. And so I was trying to fix it. We lost your audio for just a split second out there. I don't think we mixed much. But I want to acknowledge that Tina asked if there was an open house. We will do it hasn't been scheduled yet, but because we're a Title I school, we will have a Title I meeting. And we usually kind of combine that with some sort of like fall festival or something along the lines. So I'll be sure to get that out as soon as those dates are, even if it's not at a board meeting, I'll get an email out to the board as soon as those dates are set.
Martha, is that something that you were thinking would be an appropriate thing for us to meet students? I know students don't always come to those things. They're not like super well attended, but it's parents and students that are typically in attendance.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I'm trying to think. Very early on when I joined the board, there was I don't know if it was just an open house or if there was like kind of a listening session that went on at the school that I came to, something like that several years ago. So yeah, I think any of those kind of events would be great for us to attend. So just having them kind of rolling throughout the year, whatever folks are able to attend would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else for like academic outcomes that we should kind of note as a priority to try to make some goals around for the year or data measures related to them?
We should also involve, obviously, the staff and teachers, right? And deciding, I mean, what data measures to focus on, and of course, going back around and making sure it's aligned with our mission, vision, and core values. But the teachers, it seems like their input would be important.
I think that probably because they got this with the plan for whatever it is we had to turn in for our MRI, all the data that's being looked at, I think we should probably pick one of those things and maybe focus on that, because that's what we're talking about, how we're going to get ourselves out of the MRI status.
That's right.
We know that a graduation rate's not going to happen, but there's other really important things that you're going to be looking at monthly this month that we could probably pick one of those. I've got it written down here, but I don't know what I did with it. That we could focus on one of your monthly data. Like one of the things you wrote was that you're going to get X number, the kids are supposed to earn a credit a month or a minimum of a
and we're calling that APR, academic progress
APR, that's
rate.
what I was trying to remember what that was. So maybe we could look at something like that. It seems really ambitious, but that would certainly tie in with a graduation rate kind of a program, even
right.
Kids starting at age 18. But something like that ties in with what our plan is, I think would be something that we could look at. Beth will have that data because they're collecting it monthly.
Yep.
They've got a new system for looking at it. And I think that maybe if we could pick one of those things, and Beth, we can follow whatever you think would be the best descriptor.
I think APR is center to kind of our restructuring, and so the idea that we want students to be earning a credit a month. That means if they come to us with 0 credits, they would graduate in 2 years, is that timeline. And then we're setting a minimum at half a credit a month. That would take them 4 years. And that's not an accelerated paced program, but that's the minimum. And then our students that are performing under that are where we're going to heavily focus our interventions. Why are they not making progress? What is the barrier? Is it the work? Is it the circumstances? What is it? And so really doing a root cause analysis for
That's
every.
what I was just going to say. I love those root cause analysis.
Yep. What's going on here? And so I think APR would be it would be very aligned to our DASH and to our restructuring application in terms of what staff is focused on and students are focused on. It's school wide, right? Organization wide. We're all trying to say, are you making sufficient academic progress here or not?
And if not, why?
And if not, why?
and what can we do?
Yeah.
I really think,
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. So if everybody thinks that might be a good way to go, maybe that's what we could put down, Martha. We'll look at the APR.
Okay.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and I think that would be a concrete one to bring to students and staff then and say like, okay, we'd like to focus on this as like a academic outcome area. And what do you all think? How do you feel about this? Like, are there things that the board should know, or what are we missing, or is there a different area that we haven't looked at yet? And so that way I obviously don't want to have to like show these types of full-on plans to students and staff because it can get a little bit weedy. But I'll kind of look at the notes that we've taken and discussed and kind of condense it down into a very simple overview of like the board has these drafted goals. What do you all think? So that we're, have something easier to bring to them and get their feedback. So we can do some of this just sort of via email in terms of I'll clean this up, put some proposed kind of language there, and then instead of replying, I'll just, send me a direct message if you have questions, comments, changes, and then at our next board meeting, we can always kind of finalize, change things around for yearly goals, having hopefully talk to students at some point in August. Maybe, and for staff, maybe that would be a good email point too, of knowing that they can email with us is sending them an email with some of this information and getting their feedback that way. I think that's a good way to also like, hey, here's here are our email addresses. You're welcome to reach out to us directly, something like that. Sound like a plan? Cool. Retention, recruitment, we've kind of identified a few areas we can continue to work on, so it won't be too hard to make a few goals around that. And then our focus priority 3 would be like pulling something from the strategic plan. So do folks have any ideas of, okay, so obviously we're looking at academic outcomes, maybe focusing on a specific data point and getting staff student input, recruitment and retention. And then for our third goal, did anything else stick out to anyone from our 5-year strategic plan as something like, oh, that would be great to focus on this coming year? So we had kind of like facilities, organizational outcomes, finance things, or yeah, we kind of have already gone over academic outcomes. So anything else from finance? Policies, procedures. Should we go ahead then, since we've already talked about and had like that increased awareness and we have a few things going that can be kind of our goal there, and that fits under organizational?
Sure.
I think so.
Yeah. So it's an easy win because we already have a few things going.
Love the low hanging fruit. Tasty.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you so much for looking at some of those things with me. Like I said, I'll kind of do some back end work and send it back out to folks, and we'll get organized to get some staff and student input.
Thank you.
All right. Beth, we'll pass it back over to you.
Did you get them up?
I did. I have the lists of what really changed in the employee handbooks and the student handbooks, and I'll go through it fairly quickly. I don't even unless you want me to pull it up, any one of these things, we can certainly actually pull it up in the document and look at the changes. I wanted to talk about what changed in the employee handbook. We did add a whole section in the employee handbook specific to professional boundaries with students. That was requested by our risk management. They did a thorough review of our handbooks and said we didn't have quite enough in there. There is some significant change to policy that came out of that. So there's a whole new section about acceptable professional boundaries with students. And there's also guidance that all communication with students and families needs to be through a school channel. We have historically had a mismatch of some people have extensions, phone numbers with extensions. Some people use a Google number, but Google numbers cannot be attached to our Google Education Suite. So they're attached to people's personal Gmails. And then there are some long-term staff members who communicate on their personal phones to staff. That will all change this school year. There's new policy. Every staff member has a new phone extension that they can text from, that they can call from, that they can have an app on their actual phone, so they don't need to be in the building to use that number. And that'll be something that I'll have some oversight on until it's common practice. But that is now in the employee handbook. That's a new section. And it's in the section about professional boundaries with students. We did clean up in the section about additional services and counting for overtime pay. The lawyer and the accountant were looking at our contracts because every year a lot of these things go not just through me and Sammy, but also through Sue Fox, who is our legal counsel. And she was concerned that some of our staff that are not licensed. So staff at the school fall into two categories. They're classified or non-classified. And I'm going to get them mixed up here, but staff with licensure, they're licensed teachers, they're licensed administrators, they're licensed EAs. They are protected by the School Public Employee Act, and they are essentially paid a salary to do a job. And then there are a lot of support staff that are not licensed, that are paid hourly. Even though they have a salary, they're still considered hourly employees. So we still pay them an annual salary. They still get paid in the same, 15th and the 30th of every month. But we just track them a little bit different. They are eligible for overtime. And so the lawyer was worried that that we need to just be careful. And so there's a little new language in the employee handbook that talks about additional services can count if you're not a non-licensed employee, and if you're over the 40 hours a week, then you're eligible for that overtime. So it's not anything we were not compliant in. It just clears up the policy a little bit better than it did previously. That was at the request of the lawyer. We did update the staff dress code slightly, and just added a little more detail around the appropriateness of flip-flops and gym shorts and those types of things. And so you'll notice if you looked at last year's employee handbook and this year's employee handbook, there's just a little more description in there than there was previously. We address remote work a little bit differently, and just acknowledge we do have some staff members, myself included, who sometimes work remotely. And so we just wanted to acknowledge how, that is not about an individual, it's about a certain positions are eligible for that. But we certainly can't have teachers working remotely because their job is to be here with students. So there's just some additional language in this year's employee handbook that was not in the previous employee handbook. We talk a little bit in the PTO section about leave coverage. We're asking staff members to be a little more proactive in getting themselves covered when they're out. Of course, we're going to cover them whether they do that or not, but we're just asking for a little more due diligence and making sure that if they're student facing, that we don't have subs. And so who's covering it? We have plenty of support staff that step in, but just trying to alleviate some of the burden on our campus coordinators for staff to take some of that responsibility, certainly not for emergency absences, but for planned absences to take a little bit more. And then those were the changes in the employee handbook. And so just so you're clear about what changed and what didn't, The student handbook, the graduation pathway and guide at the end was updated slightly. There's no major changes, but we just wanted to be a little more clear in that space. The language in the student handbook around the phone policy, the cell phone policy this year was written by students in a committee led by our social worker. And so they are giving themselves, it's no longer a mandated, you put your phone in those pouches. We're allowing students to keep their phones, but after a warning to put them away, if there's a second warning, then a teacher can ask them to put them in those pouches, which kind of lock it up. And then if there's repeated within that day, if it becomes an issue, then the administrator can keep it in a pouch. But it's a new policy. It's in the student handbook and it was written by students. So I'm proud and hopeful that we have a little better job enforcing it since it's student driven.
Yeah.
There's also some information in the student handbook about open and closed campus policy. Our students come and go because they have complicated lives and we're not, a seat-based institution. But what we're asking students, if they go, then they're gone. What we're trying to eliminate is I'm going out to get high and then coming right back. As weed is legal for many of them. And so that's what's happening. And so they can still choose when they're on campus and when they leave. But if they leave for the day, they're gone for the day. Special circumstances, of course, to be worked out with Chris Pauls or the campus coordinator. But that is new in the student handbook as well. That if you leave campus, you leave campus. You're not going out, cause ruckus in the neighborhood and then come back. That's the thing that they were doing. And then there's also some new information in the student handbook about orientation. We are moving from a 2 time a month. We've been weekly and we're going to a twice a month. We think that still provides an incredible amount of access and flexible entry point into the system, but alleviates some of the burden on the onboarding and enrollment team. And so we're hopeful that we do it weekly, the month leading up to counts. So in late September, in late November, early December, and leading up to February, we will do a weekly orientation to just make sure that we're getting students in before we report enrollment numbers, because that's really important to our budget. But for other months, the majority of the year, they're going to go down to twice a month instead of every Monday when they do in high school orientation. So those are the changes you'll see in the student handbook. Anything else is purely visual. There's new graphics, there's new years, but those are the changes that were made to the employee handbook and student handbook, which are both action items.
Thank you so much, Beth, for sharing those changes. Did anybody have questions or comments on either the employee or the student handbook? Okay. Kind of tangentially to the handbooks, during the audit conference, there was a point made that when a school has an audit finding, the audit committee and the board as a whole should have an active role in the corrective action plan, or the CAP. And so that was something where I thought, oh, I know that, in the past we've made corrective action plans for the school, because we've had, little minor things or things that were kind of outside of our control that happened. But how could the board better support Beth and the finance team in making some of the changes that could help reduce audit findings in the future? So one of the findings last year was that, the board had approved a sick leave policy, but that change wasn't updated in the employee handbook that was online. It was in the new version of the employee handbook, but that wasn't the one that was posted, that was easy to download and look. So that, auditors just look at things randomly. So it just happened. That was one thing that didn't get updated. There's so many of those kind of details that are really hard to keep track of. And so part of the corrective action plan that Beth put together was having kind of a uniformed system of dates with policies that the board approves, as well as like checklists of, okay, what needs to happen after policies are approved? Do things need to be updated? Where do they need to be updated? And kind of having sign-offs on those. So I think it's a really wonderful way to do that. And we can support that by checking in our meetings around, okay, we reviewed that policy. Have things been updated where they need to be? Let's take a look at that checklist together. So that's a way that we can help support Beth and the finance team, and making sure those little details don't get overlooked in the busyness of the day to day. So I just kind of wanted to tie those in since we're approving the handbooks this month, that there are plans in place, and Beth is super organized, and we can play a role in kind of helping during our monthly meetings to just kind of check in. And that being said, too, for the auditing season, if there's any other little things that, okay, then how do we improve in the future to help provide that support, help provide that accountability and checking in. All right. So we're going to skip through the middle things real quick. And since we just talked about handbooks, do I have a motion to approve the 2026-2027 employee handbook?
I motion to approve the 2026-27 handbook.
Thank you, Jody.
I second.
And Ben seconds. Are there any nays? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have approved the 2026-2027 employee handbook. I realized during this meeting I'd kind of dropped off from asking for the nays, so I'm trying to get back in that practice. Do I have a motion to approve the 2026-2027 student handbook?
I motion to approve the 26-27 student handbook.
Thank you, Cindy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Deb. Do I have any nays? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We have approved the 2026-27 student handbook. All right, and then we're going to go back over to the Open Meetings Act. So Beth provided this document. It's state law, that each board has to yearly approve the Open Meetings Act. This was something from a previous year that we got dinged because we didn't realize we needed to approve it every year. So Beth and I went through it in our one-on-one and just kind of updated some of the dates to make sure that it works for the school year. Basically just, the law that we record our meetings, we have to post agendas and minutes, all of those things that we're doing on a monthly basis. Having Robert's rules for voting on things, how we, announce special meetings or emergency meetings, all of those kind of things. Did we have any questions on the Open Meetings Act? Okay. Yeah, we didn't really change anything from it. It's all, written in law that we have to agree to. We just updated dates for this coming year. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the 26-27 Open Meetings Act?
A motion to approve the 2026-2027 Open Meetings Act.
Thank you, Ben. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Tina. Any nays? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. We have approved the 26-27 Open Meetings Act. All right. And then we'll go over and look at contracts. Again, Beth includes these because the board votes on anything, over $60,000. She linked those in her director's report. Any questions or comments on employee contracts? Okay. As Beth noticed or noted, a couple new staff members, folks with lots of experience, really excited to get to start to meet folks. So we appreciate you getting those contracts together, Beth. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the 26-27 contracts?
I motion to approve the 26-27 contracts.
I second.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Ben, for the second. And any nays? All right. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have approved the 26-27 contracts. The reason why I'm bringing back the nays is it just kind of, especially with an online space, it really helps for accountability or transparency if anyone is watching these meetings, of making sure that we didn't miss any nays. So that's why I kind of am voicing that. All right, our next board meeting is August 20th. Some folks might see each other either in person or online on Monday. That's great. And then in email, we'll kind of talk about finding a Tuesday time that one or more folks can go over and talk to students. Anything else? Questions, comments, things coming up?
You had just mentioned an 8th board member, which I think is a great idea. Are you looking for, am I confused?
Yeah. So 7 is a really great number to stay at, and so we're very comfortable with the 7. I'm still in the process of kind of looking through old documents to double check on the end of certain folks' term limits,
Got it.
including my own. I can't remember whether I was inducted in October or November, so I'm gonna go back and look for those pretty soon. So I'm kind of reaching, it's only a couple more months until the end of my 5-year term. And then I think is Deb's shortly after is Jody's. And so, obviously let's have conversations, Deb and Jody,
Okay.
about how you guys are feeling, if you'd like to renew or extend even a year, whatever you're thinking is fine. But I just more of thinking ahead to, I'm unfortunately stepping off just because I don't live in Albuquerque, and it's a little bit harder for me to have this position now with my little one. But knowing that, yeah, other people might need to be stepping off at the end of their 5 years as well. And so having that on the horizon of wanting to kind of keep a good number of board members going rather than have a number drop off within a couple of months.
Thank you.
I know that Martha is incredibly humble, but I also want to take this opportunity to really thank Martha for her leadership, and remind staff members that as Martha plans her exit, someone will have to step up as the board president. And I don't know what people's personal hesitations or concerns might be. But if that's something that you might be interested or willing, I know Martha's always extended an invitation to talk with her. You're also welcome to talk through with me about what that really means. I mean, obviously Martha does an impeccable job of leading the meetings. But she also signs checks over $5,000 require a second signature. So she's on our bank account and does that. And then there are some other, she meets with me about a week before this meeting to prepare the agenda with me, and make sure that we're kind of lined up. And then she's been incredibly gracious as just jumping in and filling in whenever we need a board member to do X, Y, or Z. Martha often, as the president, steps in to do that. But just reminding everybody that someone is going to have to take the baton, because I certainly can't lead the board. The board has to have a board member that is willing to step up into that position. So just a quick reminder.
Yeah, thank you for that, Beth, because I am not good at like asking people for extra things or badgering people. And so I've kind of like put off and put off talking to people about it. And I will say that, our previous board president, she kind of had helped with the transition because she had been the previous director of Gordon Burnell. And so she kind of did that to make sure the board was strong and to help support Beth in that transition. But she really felt like, she couldn't stay in that position very long, just because of, relationships that were already made. And it was kind of a tricky position of, she was the previous director. And so she talked to me for quite a long time before I agreed to consider being president, in part because I was still rather a new board member. I think probably even around the time that I had done it for a year or so, she started asking me if I would be interested. And then at about like a year and a half of me being on the board, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready now, and wasn't as nervous to do it anymore. And it's been a really great experience, and I've so enjoyed working with Beth and other staff members. And yeah, while there are a few more responsibilities as compared to just being a board member, I wouldn't say that it's been super burdensome either. There's a lot that's streamlined. I've learned a lot in the process. And I think one of the things we need to do, we'd never, again, I don't like to badger people. We never implemented having a vice president. So I think that would be something I'd really recommend going forward too, is like having somebody to be a president, having a vice president, to help support, especially if, there's certain meetings that, they can't be at, then we have that designated person to kind of fill in. So be thinking about that in terms of like, for those members who maybe you're getting close, do you want to do another year, another 5 years, or is it your time? For folks who have been there for a while and you're interested in being president, reach out. I'm happy to have more conversations. Or even folks who are new, that's not necessarily there's not a time prerequisite in order to be president. It's just more of like you learn as you go, and we have a lot of that like underlying support and routine kind of going on now. So.
It's probably an additional 2 hours a month, maybe, if that, an hour with me to prep for this meeting. And then I add that other hour in like 10-minute increments of, oh, I need to sign something that Sammy sent me. Oh, I need to review something that the board president has to sign. So there'd be an additional hour commitment, but we could probably streamline that and make it a little quicker just to prepare for this meeting. And then knowing that just being on standby to review financial or things that need to be done on the side. I don't think it adds up to more than an hour and a half or so extra in addition to what you're already doing in preparing for this meeting and participating in it.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is being able to learn from shared leadership as well. I think Beth has a lot of experience with shared leadership, so maybe she can give some tips around, spreading out. I've really helped with a lot of committees, but if you really want to try and get folks on and say, okay, you're responsible for that committee, you're responsible for that committee, let's report back at board meetings. The president doesn't have to necessarily be on all those committees or doing all those things. We can definitely kind of help distribute some of the duties in that way. And we've streamlined signing checks. It used to be that president would come in person to sign them, and all of that is online now, so it's really easy. All you have to do is review the documents and sign the checks digitally. Yeah, you might have to have an original like going in person to get the bank account set up with your name on it, but aside from that, like then you don't necessarily have to worry about doing things in person. So, all right. food for thought. Reach out to me if you have questions or want to talk about it, because yeah, that's coming up quick, and I've been like reticent to really ask people or push. Um, all right. Sometimes it's also like just like, well, they'll be forced to. So no, I really appreciate everybody kind of practicing the first 3 months when I was out on maternity leave. So I thought that was a good way to see that, oh, it's not so scary. It's not so difficult. All right.
Nominate Sabah in his absence.
Yeah.
Right, but we can nominate, vote him in, and then be like, Sabah, guess what? You're
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like okay, he's also kind of had his paternity leave as well. I wanted to share. I don't have any pictures to share with folks. You'll have to ask him personally, but I was able to go in person to deliver a gift to he and his wife, and they're doing well, and they have a really sweet little boy named Shaheen. And I think part of his business too is like they had to move like sh a few days before she gave birth. Basically, their landlord made them move, and so he's been really busy. But we look forward to checking in with him when he's back. But otherwise, they and their baby are doing good. Um, all right. So thank you everyone for your patience. If there's anything else, feel free to email or text or call. Do I have a motion to adjourn today's Gordon Burnell Governance Council regular meeting on July 16th?
I move we adjourn the meeting.
All right. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Jody. All right. And all in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have adjourned today's meeting at 6:12 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your July. See you soon.